I'm going to Ibiza on Tuesday.
That's so nice.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But I have to say I've had a lot of anxiety because it's, you know, warm, there's swimsuits involved. And there's also, if you're going on holiday with family, there's also photography and photos. And I like being behind the camera, not in front of it. So I'm quite happy to take photographs of other people. But I really, especially since I've put more weight on, I really do avoid having my photograph taken. And it's sad, really, because then every year I do these photo books for my kids, and there's less and less photographs of me in those photo books. And the only photographs I will put in there are, you know, kind of this part of me. I won't have the rest of my body. So I'm really writing myself out of my own story.
Yeah. What's going on in your mind when, so let's say you're out and it's a nice sunny day, you're on holiday, and so your husband wants to take a photograph of you. What's going on? What's going through your mind?
Well, first of all, it's an absolute no. I don't want to. And then in my mind, I'm like, well, I'll just look hideous. I'll look fat. I'll look ugly. So I'll ruin the photograph.
So that's
and I also don't want to be reminded. I don't want in 10 years' time to look back at that photograph and go, ugh. So it's a reminder of me of how I look.
So you are predicting your own future. You're trying to predict your own future there. Is that what you're saying?
The worst thing is sometimes it's completely opposite, isn't it? And you look at photographs of yourself 10 years ago and think, oh, I wish I still looked like that now. You
exactly.
know?
But
I recognise all that, but in that moment.
And that's how teenagers feel as well, isn't it? You know, like in front of the camera, they'll be saying things like that to themselves. I look hideous, you know, I'm not worthy enough or whatever, I'm ugly. You know, it's what I found is that when you are in a safer environment, when you feel safer in your environment, especially with teenagers, then you feel more, what's the word I'm looking for? You're probably more able to have a picture taken of yourself. So if you're at home and you're feeling very safe and comfortable, and your husband wants to take a picture of you and the kids on the sofa, then you're more likely to do that because you're in your own surroundings and you feel safe. So it's amazing how your environment has that influence on your mind. Whereas when you're on holiday, it's all new, you feel exposed, you're not used to your surroundings. So that can play quite a big thing. What do you think, Jennie?
I hadn't thought of that, actually. And lighting is another factor. A lot of people with body dysmorphia will only sit in certain places, certain lights. They kind of spend a lot of time reading the environment where they feel safe.
Yeah, that reminds me of my own experiences when I had BDD. I hated getting in the lift, absolutely hated it. And one of the jobs that I had, I used to get in the lift I used to have to get in the lift every morning to get to the top floor. And people, obviously it was always full. People used to come in the lift and it had fluorescent lighting and everybody would be chatting with each other. And in my mind, it was like mirrors, fluorescent lights. It was just nightmare.
Yeah, and in a way, the photograph is a permanent reminder of that. So in the mirror, you look at the mirror and it's a nightmare in the moment and you're like, I can get out of the lift, I can get out. But when you've got a photograph and that's in a photo album and people are going to be looking at it and you're going to be looking at it and your kids are going to be looking at it going, that was my mummy. I just find that it's the permanent record, I think, for me.
So it is, because at what point, because there was a point where I reparented myself. I decided that I'm going to let people see me under the fluorescent light in the natural sun, because the natural sun was another one. I hate people see me outside in the natural sun. But at some point I had to reparent myself. And so at what point are you going to allow yourself to reparent yourself to be okay with having a photograph taken?
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I'm in a therapy session.
And there's an assumption that other people judge you as harshly as you do. You're kind of projecting into the future and saying, there's going to be this book with pictures of me in it, And you almost said, and my children are going to look at me through the same lens that I see myself. And I think back to the photographs of my mum, who was, I guess she was a little bit bigger than she wanted to be. It's all very hazy. But in the photographs that I have of her, she also didn't like photographs, but the photographs that I have of her, I treasure. There aren't very many of them. And I don't look at her with any kind of judgment. I look purely at that, oh, you know, there's my mum, and, you know, there's her face, and there we were in wherever it was. And how wonderful it is that I've still got those photographs now that she's not here anymore.
Yeah.
So
and that actually leads me on to my next question, Jen, and I'm sorry if we are picking on you, but it's because it is the memory that's more important than, you know, when you visit someone, people will always remember the feeling that you give them more than how you look. Yeah. So it's the feeling that people get from you rather than, you know, if you don't put makeup on for the day, people are not going to be pissed off with you because you've not put any makeup on. They're going to remember how they feel when they're around you. And that's why people fall in love with people, because of the feeling that they give them. So when you are having your photograph taken, what feeling are you projecting on everybody else?
Yeah.
Have you thought about the feeling?
No, I haven't thought about that at all. Yeah. So
because it will have an effect on them, and it's not, you know, I'm not here to say you must stop doing this. This is, you know, because I know you can't just stop. You know, you have to reparent yourself. But it's thinking about, okay, what feeling am I giving off right now by saying no to a photograph? What's the feeling that I'm giving them? So they will remember that memory with your feeling in it. So you might be in Ibiza on holiday and you're having an amazing time. You're at the water park, for example. You're in your bikini or your swimming costume. Swimming costume with a towel around you, wet hair. And hubby wants to take a picture of you and the kids are like, yeah, we're having a great time. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do this. So that memory is going to be distorted a little bit with the feeling that mummy has of not wanting a picture taken. So they're going to remember that memory with you not being happy. They might not even remember it's about a picture. They'll just think,
they'll internalize it. They'll internalize the thing that mummy isn't happy about her body.
Yeah.
Which,
you don't realize, isn't it, the impact. You think it's all about you, but actually the impact that you're having on other people is one of the things that's just making me think about young people now and photographs is that the world is just so much more focused on photographs and all this kind of social media and selfies and kind of having a camera on your phone 24/7 taking photographs. The intensity of it all, I think, as well, is you know, when I was a kid, you took a roll of a camera on holiday and you took one roll of film, so you took photographs carefully. Now it's like snapping about everywhere. You know, you're having something to eat, take a photograph. You know, and it feels quite intense.
Yeah, I mean,
I think.
Sorry, go on.
Go on.
No, you go first.
I think it's something that you can actually overcome. It's a bit like that fear you first get when you go out learning to drive. And it's a bit like the fear that I first had when I was recording something on body dysmorphia. I think I did it for Psychology Today. I've probably said here before that I pretty much cried for 3 days.
I think you mentioned this.
Well, I was a double whammy. One, I was trying to get it right. You know, I was trying to say things right. I was trying not to trip over my words. And I was very much in the forefront of my mind as this has got to be good enough. It's got to be really good. And then I saw this wonderful woman called Hattie Volker, who's a voice coach. And she was actually doing this little talk on, she was promoting her business. And in the promotion, she wasn't actually perfect. And, you know, she was doing things that I would have rejected from my video, from my recording. And I just thought, oh no, so what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to you know, record this thing and just send it off. And actually from that recording, I've got quite a lot of people contacted me because they've said that felt really genuine.
That's good.
But the trauma of being filmed and actually having to do it myself and set the camera up was massive. And now we're all just rocking up here on a Monday morning going, oh, here we are, you know, we just talk freely. And that's the kind of liberation that I think you, Jane, would like to have going forward. So that you don't subconsciously impact your children to internalize a rejection of the body.
So if you're doing that, you know, because we're talking about teenagers as well, aren't we? So I think with teenagers, it's really good to find out who their role models are. So one of the teenagers that I'm working with at the moment, luckily her role model is Billie Eilish, and this teenager has an eating disorder. So we looked at pictures of Billie Eilish eating, and there was one where she's eating, she's really tucking into a burger like that. And that was really good for this teenager to see that, because she believed that, I know it's got nothing to do with pictures, but she believed that she should always have an empty stomach, always, which meant don't eat ever. So I think in terms of like picture taking, social media, etc., looking at who is the role model and get them to challenge the questions that they ask. So one of the role models that another teenager is following says that you should always fast for 16 hours a day. Yeah, that seems to be a thing now. And really, is that, you know, so this other client was giving me a full reel of like why it's good to fast for 16 hours and what, you know, what good comes out of it and things like that. But for somebody with an eating disorder or body dysmorphic disorder, you know, struggles around the weight and how they look, it's not good. So it's good to get teenagers to challenge their own thoughts, because who's put those thoughts in there you know, we've talked about your thoughts around photographs and not feeling good enough. So what is it that children are thinking in that moment when you're having the photograph taken? What is the thoughts that they're having? And can you change that dialogue that they're having with themselves? I've gone completely off course there.
I know, but it is related, isn't it, in terms of the dialogue that I'm having with myself when I'm faced with a camera, you know, because that it is related to that. And how can I change that and have a different conversation in my head about photographs? And I think one of the things I'm going to take away is this kind of idea that I'm in the moment with my children. The memory is that moment, not the photograph. And the memory is how we're feeling around each other and what we're doing. And it's not about what I look like in that photograph, certainly not to them. And to be honest, really, I don't care. I shouldn't care much about what anybody else thinks, should I? It's about me and my family. And
well, if you think about it, it's going to be easier. Well, she says it might be easier for you to reparent yourself from this conversation.